I'm Craven Van Candy. Like and subscribe and drop us a line. I don't hate cats. Cats hate me. Don't you see? We're all in danger as long as that animal is in this house. When people talk about tales from the dark side, they often focus on the monsters, the demons, the witches, the creatures lurking just out of frame. But the episodes that truly disturb aren't about monsters at all. They're about grief you can't escape, about inheritance you never asked for, about small, desperate choices that quietly destroy everything you love. These are stories where the horror doesn't jump out at you. It settles in, and once it does, it doesn't leave. Tonight, on my second edition of the most disturbing television horror, this is a sequel as we give you 6 more of the most disturbing episodes from Tales from the Dark Side. Sinister seconds, not because they're flashy. No, it's because they're cruel, tragic, and relentlessly human. And number 1, Baker's Dozen. At first glance, Baker's Dozen feels like a morality tale ripped straight from an EC horror comic book. Think again, because this is a tale that only could come from the dark side. Henry Hogan is a ruthless businessman who steals, underpays his workers, and discards people the moment they stop being useful. Ruby Cousins, played perfectly by the great Mabel King, a quiet elderly baker, is one of his victims. And what Henry doesn't know is that Ruby comes from a long line of witches. Yes, we learn her most sought-after bakery, Cousins Dozens, has even darker secrets of its own. As we learn her father, Aloysius Cousins, is forever enslaved by the witchy pastry maker. Yes, he now shapeshifts into a kitchen rat at night, forever cursed by his scorned daughter, receiving his just desserts for abandoning Ruby and her mother many years ago. Whenever Ruby is humiliated, abused, or wronged, she shapes little figures out of bread dough, crude human-shaped forms that twitch and pulse when no one's looking. At first it seems harmless, almost sad, but once Henry fires her and takes full ownership of the bakery, the dough begins to rise and move and work its evil magic into the narrative. Her father, Aloysius, tries to warn Hogan that his daughter is in bed with the devil, but Hogan ignores his warning. Irony, family strife, and some of Tales from the Dark Side's most disturbing body horror in all the series happens as the voodoo hex gingerbread men become useful in settling old family grudges and suspicions of extramarital affairs, as Hogan's wife begins suspecting that Harry is having an affair. She takes the baked goods and puts it to unimaginable and terrifying uses on her husband, who may not be guilty of adultery, but surely his other sins find him out. In an utterly horrific scene that could only come from the imagination of one George A. Romero, as this would be his final script he would pen from Tales from the Dark Side, the show he created. Now, as for Ruby, well, we learned the hard way that a baker's dozen isn't 12, it's 13. You would think Ruby would know better, but she teaches us never to get careless with that 13th fake good that's meant for you. Sometimes it might have your name on it. A disgruntled, vengeful, hungry kitchen rat just might gnaw the pastry's head clean off. The performances here are pitch perfect by all concerned, and this is a great final hurrah for George A. Romero's script writing, the dark humor, the sense of irony, and that twist at the end. It's absolutely, excuse the pun, but delicious. And number 2, Seasons of Belief. This episode is infamous, and for good reason, as on Christmas Eve, 2 parents tell their children a scary bedtime story about a creature called the Grither, a massive ancient being that hears its name spoken on the winter wind. What makes this even extra special is we have the great character actor E.G. Marshall from Creepshow fame played the part of the father, and he's great. The more people believe in the Grither, the closer it gets. And what starts as playful storytelling slowly turns dangerous. The house grows colder, the wind picks up, the children become genuinely afraid. And then, without warning, the story stops being a story. The Grither crashes through the walls, not fully seen, only suggested, and brutally kills both parents while the children watch helplessly. There's no escape, no lesson, no mercy. E. Marshall's fatherly delivery makes us feel like a campfire story, a folk horror at Christmas time, as if Krampus is listening, or some other pagan evil that comes around to punish the bad kids who shouldn't be whispering demonic names this time of year. Yeah, it's just good holiday fun from Tales from the Darkside. This is one you have to experience for yourself. I do it no justice. And the great thing is, the reason it's disturbing is because it weaponizes imagination. It tells you that belief itself can summon horror. And once it's here, even at Christmas time, innocence won't protect you. At number 3, The Case of the Stubborns. This episode is quiet, unpleasant, unforgettable. Titus Tolliver is dead. Everyone knows it. Everyone except Titus. He wakes up at his own wake, insisting he's alive, arguing, complaining, and refusing to acknowledge the obvious signs of decay overtaking his body. His skin discolors, his breath turns foul, and his flesh begins to rot. And still, he just won't accept it. What makes this episode so disturbing is its pacing. Titus doesn't attack anyone. He isn't violent. He's just wrong. A walking corpse driven entirely by denial. This is an episode that the fandom always refer to. Famous for its disturbing makeup and practical effects, this one also includes a rather impressive cast, including a very young Christian Slater, just before he became a huge star in the mid to late 80s, with such movies as Pump Up the Volume, and of course the cult favorite, Heathers, and Brent Spiner as the vagabond preacher, before he became one of the most beloved characters in the history of Star Trek, everyone's favorite synthetic humanoid, of course, Data. And speaking of which, only when this traveling preacher performs a ritual meant to cure stubborn souls does Titus finally collapse, seasoning crumbling flesh back into a corpse. It's horror built on inevitability. You can argue with death, you can deny it, but you cannot outlast it. At number 4, I Can't Help Saying Goodbye. Some say this may be the saddest episode of Tales from the Darkside. I disagree. I say it's one of the scariest. This is one I included because, personally, it's one that truly gave me nightmares when I was a kid growing up watching this show. It's about a young girl who has an unsettling habit. Whenever she says goodbye to someone, they die shortly after. Her mother tries to rationalize it. It's coincidence. It's imagination. Maybe it's stress. But the pattern becomes undeniable. The girl doesn't cause death. She foresees it. And she can't stop herself from speaking. Each goodbye is gentle, loving, innocent. And each one lands like a death sentence. The episode's final moments are devastating as the girl looks at her mother, smiles softly, and says goodbye. There's no monster. There's no curse to break. Just fate. Unavoidable and cruel. This is Tales from the Darkside at its most emotionally brutal. There's something about the opening scene. The girl played by Alison Sweeney, spying on her sister, while her new suitor plays a creepy song on a piano. It just all feels very off. The way she stares. The music. It really creates a haunting ambiance. Do angels have to learn how to fly? The girl asked her sister. Everyone has that one episode, if you're a frequent watcher of this kind of programming. That one that hits differently. Personally, this is that episode for me. It takes a very unflinching look at something that we all have to face. Death. Very underrated gem of unsettled creepiness. This is one you have to watch. It's, well, haunting. And this one has stayed with me for many years. At number 5, Family Reunion. At first, Family Reunion plays like a domestic thriller. A young boy is kidnapped by his estranged father, who claims he's saving the child from his mother. The father seems paranoid, unstable, possibly abusive, but slowly memories resurface. The boy begins craving raw meat. He reacts violently to certain smells. He remembers blood. The truth is far worse than anyone expects. The mother's family aren't human. They're shapeshifters. Predators pass their condition through bloodlines. The father didn't kidnap his son. He tried to rescue him. And by the end, the boy embraces his inheritance, and the father's fate is sealed. Implied rather than shown, but unmistakably brutal. This one features veteran character actor Stephen McHattie, who's always great. Most of us horror fans know him from the underrated movie Pontypool, where he really shines. And of course he played the big bad in the final season of Orphan Black as the evil P.T. Westmoreland. Well, here he delivers a very solid performance. And of course, another thing of interest, the great makeup special effects wizard and legendary Tom Savini directs his second episode for Tales from the Darkside, furthering his resume and status of episodic greatness. Let's not forget he also directed the fan favorite Inside the Closet, which I previously covered in my first Tales from the Darkside video. And as you probably guessed, Tom Savini fills this one to the brim with some of the greatest practical effects ever seen in late-night syndicated television. Now, Patricia Tallman is also memorable as the concerned mother who is on the trail of her rogue husband, whom has taken their son. A mother should never be separated from her child, she says. But of course, we know Mother has a dark, seedy agenda all her own. And like all great works of horror, we only see the monstrous shadows, scary faces in the midst of a nightmare. But the real terror comes in the final moments, with quite possibly one of the greatest jump scares in the history of the whole series, and a final scene that gives this one its name. This episode recalls some of the best of Stephen King's work, notably Firestarter, and it also has some Silver Bullet vibes. Family Reunion is disturbing because it suggests some legacies cannot be escaped, and some parents lose their children long before it's too late. At number 6, The Milkman Cometh. Robert Forster plays Jerry Cooley, a once promising writer whose career stalled. He's broke, unemployed, drowning under the weight of providing for his wife and kids. The family is on the verge of collapse. The bills are overdue. The marriage is strained. And Jerry feels like a complete failure. But one night, a mysterious milk bottle appears on the doorstep with a note. With the milkman will come. And he does. Smiling, old-fashioned milkman. He begins visiting the house at night, and Jerry discovers that if he writes a wish on a slip of paper and leaves it inside an empty milk bottle, the milkman delivers, but there's always a debt to pay. Money, security, food. Finally, the thing Jerry wants most, success. But as I mentioned, every wish has a cost, a hidden one, a devastating one. Jerry also realizes that his neighbors are now flashing, shinier, nicer, more expensive things. His best friend has succumbed to living out his wildest midlife crisis fantasies of fetish and flesh. But of course, that also comes with a price. But then we get a glimpse of the milkman, dressed as a silver servant. But what is that in the shadows we really see? It's not a hand. No, it's a claw. Suddenly, we see the green, scaly, reptilian. We now realize he's not human. He's something alien, different. But by that time, Jerry realizes it's way too late. We learn that Jerry's wife lost a child, so unfortunately, we all know what the final wish is going to be. I'm not going to spoil the end, but this one, you have to see it for yourself. It's going to leave your jaw slack and knock the ever-living wind right out of you. Robert Forster knocks it right out of the park, possibly giving one of the greatest performances in the whole series. Yes, this is a different variation on the monkey's paw, but that's what makes this episode so special. I highly recommend it. It's a must-watch, and actually a strong contender for my favorite episode. Tales from the Darkside didn't rely on spectacle. You see, it didn't need stars or budgets or punchlines. It understood something way more terrifying. That the worst horror, it isn't what hunts us in the dark. It's what waits patiently inside our choices, our families, our fears. Because on the dark side, you don't always get what you deserve. Sometimes you get exactly what you asked for. Thank you for joining me. I'm Craven Van Candy. And wherever you may be, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good riddance.